Good afternoon, everybody. It's always a great privilege to welcome so many customers, partners, and obviously colleagues from over India. So I'm 3 years into my journey in India, and I must admit, it's probably the most exciting part of my career so far. As a market, India represents such an amazing opportunity for everybody. I think obviously India itself is going through such an amazing transformation as a global power. And obviously that creates great opportunities and also some many significant challenges. So today, I'm going to be asking some tough questions. So hopefully you're all awake. Hopefully you're all paying attention. Because in this digital co-creation thing, I don't have the answers, right? Actually, none of us have the answers. The only way that we can answer the problems together is actually to collaborate, to co-create, to understand our problems together. Let's step into it. So here's a tough question, right? If you had a superpower for business, what would it be? Just imagine you could choose something that would create such a transformational effect on your business, on your industry sector, on your society. What would it be? Could it be about always making the best decisions? That insight, that person with the real crux, understanding everything, and always making the right choices. X-ray vision of everything in your organization. If you could really touch, feel, and sense what's going on in your business, what could you do with that? What else could you create? Read your customer's mind. Some of my customers, I really wouldn't want to read their mind, but anyway. My point is, there is always opportunity. If you can really understand what people are trying to achieve, if they can articulate it in such a way that you can exploit that, that's a great opportunity. Immunity to risk and threat. Obviously in business, it's great to be immune. It's great to actually be able to see and understand the threats that are coming towards you. Last but not least, see into the future. Obviously, we can predict what's going to happen. We can adjust, we can adapt, and we can transform. So what do you think is going to happen? What would you want to do for your superpower? So anyway, we did some surveys, right? And this is just a snapshot. We did surveys in most of our Fujitsu World Tour. We've been in some 30-odd countries so far. This is a kind of sample what we get. You can see it's a pretty wide spread, right? Seeing into the future seemed to be the most popular. But these are big questions to ask, right? Can we actually understand our digital future by having a superpower? You see, the thing is, there is no simple answer to these problems. We have to work together. We have to co-create. So I want to talk about some examples of where we did some transformational things. Just imagine if you could save a life, right? Some very scary statistics, right? 1 in 15 people in the adult population have suffered with depression. Something like 4 in 50, 27% of the adult population are suffering with some mental disorder. 27% of the population. Imagine in India how many people that represents, right? The other analysis done is 90% of all suicides are directly linked with some form of mental illness, some form of alcohol or substance or drug abuse. That leads to suicide. Back in 2012, World Health Organization quoted that over 800,000 people had committed suicide due to illness. Imagine the impact we can have through healthcare if we were able to solve some of these problems. So we have a customer in Spain, in Madrid, which is the San Carlos Hospital. And they're very famous within the Madrid region for basically treating mental health disorders. And they talked about some of the challenges they have. If you can imagine, it's an expensive process. Doctors, highly educated doctors, have to see patients. And given the demands on doctors, they have a finite period of time in which to listen to a patient's issues and listen to a problem. And obviously something as sophisticated or complex as mental health issues, you cannot find the answer to those problems in 30 minutes. And so, to treat a patient, it could take weeks and weeks and weeks of analysis. for an individual doctor or a series of experts to work together. So just think about it. So they asked us, what could we do to help them? What could Fujitsu consider to help them? So one of the things that we did is we asked them to, okay, understand your problem, share some data with us. So they shared over 36,000 clinical records with us. We developed a system using AI that analyzed that clinical data and came up with a series of algorithms that, based on just very simple subject matter expert, used neural networks, surveyed that data, took inputs, and started to analyze. One thing that we found is that the system, in a matter of seconds, had a 95% accuracy rate when it came to the diagnosis of an individual patient's problems, in seconds. So what used to take them 8 to 10 weeks worth of clinical trials, the system built the knowledge base through neural networks, through basically AI technology, in order to diagnose that. That has been an absolutely transformational way that they can now treat patients in Madrid. Imagine that impact across the entirety of healthcare. I'm not saying Fujitsu holds any special patents in this domain, but I'm saying just that impact on that industry, how transformational that could be to the health and welfare of individuals, the social impact it could have, and on a scale of something like India, the tremendous benefit it would be to the country. So that's a great example for us. So let's ask another question. Will your sector be digitally disrupted over the next 5 years? Will it become unrecognizable? Do you think it will just change, but in some fundamental way? Or will it just change in some specific areas, things that you're concerning now, things that you can envisage? Maybe it's just a small thing. Maybe it's just another technology hype that actually doesn't have the impact that everybody's talking about. Or won't it change at all? I mean, I'd hate to believe that there's anybody sat in this room who believes that digital will not change anything. So again, we did some surveys, and we came up with some observations. I'd like to meet the 3.3% of people, by the way. I mean, they are some strange individuals. But you see, everybody thinks it's going to change fundamentally. I mean, that's why we're here. Actually, considering the people we have in the room and considering some of the businesses or the technologies that you're involved in, obviously we believe that digital is going to have a significant effect in the way that our businesses operate. It will be fundamentally different. Large parts of industry will become unrecognizable. I don't think 15.6%, in my view, is a fair reflection. But it will fundamentally change. The impact will be very significant. So digital disruption. We did a survey, we did a global survey. 75% of business leaders say that their sectors are going to fundamentally change in the next 5 years. Fundamentally change. More than half believe that their organizations will not exist in their current form. They will be transformed in some significant way to address that. Only 7% of people in the survey believe that they're leading digital transformation in their industry. 7%. We all believe it's fundamentally important. We all believe that we need to do something, but only 7% of people surveyed believe that they are actually able to grasp the problem and able to start driving their businesses in fundamentally different ways. So, are you leading in your industry? You all work for corporations, you're all involved in society in some way, you're all involved in business in some way. Are you really challenging? Right? Are you seeing it? Only the boldest organizations will find the prosperity and the survival, the sustainability, if they actually grasp the opportunity that digital brings. Only those people will actually gain a major advantage. Okay, so digital transformation. What steps addressing this? What are the bold people thinking about in terms of digital transformation? So what are the mega trends? Certainly, intelligence makes a big difference. The application of intelligence is going to make a big difference. Building intelligence, building sensory feedback in all facets, in all dimensions of what sensory feedback could mean, is what will change. Connectivity is changing the nature of business. Connectivity, every fundamental aspect of what we're discussing, is fundamentally going to change business. Obviously, as we move into the next generation, whether it be 5G or beyond, obviously the opportunity to connect things, or things to become more interconnected, is going to be fundamentally important to the way that we see opportunity in the landscape, and the basis on which we can make business decisions. Seeing everything from the customer's viewpoint. Obviously, most of the IT software industry has been talking about pushing solutions to a customer. But I think we're seeing a fundamental shift. Customers are now much more literate about what basic software technology or basic hardware technology can do for them. But it's not solving their business problem. It's not addressing quickly enough the dynamics of the challenges that they face or the opportunities they have in their businesses to grow. So we need to have a different type of dialogue with customers in order for them to elicit the right response from innovators, and to actually go on a journey with them that will see outcomes differ fundamentally. So another question. As you see digital transformation happening, how engaged is your organization in digital today? Is it not engaged? Is it planning for something? Are they running proof of concepts? Are they implementing a digital transformation program? Or do you believe you're fully digital? Can't believe anybody would think that. But where are we? Okay, so again, some survey results that we did. So, glad to say, not engaged in digital. Everybody is really thinking about it needs to be important. Planning for digital, clearly people are understanding it, but most importantly, a very large percentage of organizations are implementing a digital transformation. Fujitsu itself is going through a massive investment internally to transform itself as a business. One of the things that Fujitsu is very proud of is we do not push our solutions, we do not push our concepts to customers unless we're willing to take them ourselves. So, one of the other big pillars of the digital era is the Internet of Things. Particularly in a production environment, something as huge and of scale as manufacturing. Running a factory is a very expensive business. For example, I mean, the efficiency of factories is something the industrial era has worked very heavily to invest in, very heavily to maintain. But did you know that a single hour of production downtime in a factory can cost as much as $1.2 million per hour? The scale of that impact on a factory that goes offline for a period of time is immense. Manufacturers clearly hold their suppliers and people in the supply chain accountable for keeping their factories operational. That's important, but of course, how do people who are running factories get enough intelligence back to them to predict these things happening? To make sure that they've got in place the right measures to control the risks that they've got. Right? That's something that is a big challenge to everybody. So everybody's talking about Industry 4.0. What does it really mean in terms of the way that a smart factory will evolve in the future? Real-time visibility, the ability to be able to predict and see what is happening through a virtual version of your factory. Clearly, factories are usually typically large-scale establishments. There's so many processes, so many people involved, very complex infrastructure, very complex equipment, how to bring it all together. Getting that real-time visibility makes a big difference to factories. The other thing is in control and insight, looking at technologies that are able to detect, able to analyze, able to predict, able to sense. These are all fundamental things for making a smart factory. So, we have a case study. Inasa Group is a state-owned Chinese electronics company. A little bit like Make in India, China has a vision for Made in China 2025. In other words, what's the future of smart factories? We worked with the NASA to come up with a complete virtualization of their factory. So looking at a smart factory, looking at all the sensors, looking at all the feedback loops, looking at all of the monitoring of equipment on there in a complete virtualized environment. So the control center is not just about the individual pinpoints, it's actually being able to walk and visualize, walk through the factory and see what's happening in real time. Being able to visualize what individuals are doing, what processes are operating, what's happening with individual pieces of equipment. These are all fundamental things that we did for. As a process of doing this over a period of 18 months, we increased the production rate by 25%. You can imagine at a large scale in any manufacturing organization, that really makes things very, very compelling in terms of looking at the impact that digital transformation will have on a manufacturer. Artificial intelligence. Now, when we talk about artificial intelligence, it's a huge subject in its own right. It's a huge suite of technologies. What Fujitsu is really focused about is a very narrow definition. It's the application of artificial intelligence to solve discrete problems. San Carlos was one of those discrete problems we solved. CIOs, you ask any CIO, do they think AI is relevant to the business? Of course they do. But very few people are taking up the challenge of AI. It's a complicated thing to understand. How do you apply AI in your business? One of the things that we're very proud of, Fujitsu has more patents in AI than any other company on the planet. Our patent portfolio in AI is very immense indeed. But what Fujitsu sees is even though we may have the scientists that understand the right application of AI, the impact on business is about discrete and narrow applications of AI. But what facets of AI do we find most interesting at this point in time? Machine learning. We talked about the factory example. Of course, anything that can predict what's happening in a factory to a level whereby we're minimizing the downtime, we're upping the productivity, or we're looking at more efficient ways in which processes using those equipment can come to that. Machine learning is there. That leads to another thing, which is deep learning. So out of the basis of which you're gathering data from all the different systems and processes, you're then leading to a bunch of algorithms which then say, actually, if you look holistically at what's happening with all those processes, there are new ways of doing that. Fujitsu is investing in some very interesting technology in this domain. Neural networks obviously sit at the core of the way that AI works. Building these used to be a very complicated thing, but compute power, storage, very low latency networks, very high bandwidth networks are now creating the opportunity where actually we can create real neural networks that can actually gather data, analyze it, and implement algorithms that will actually exploit it. So what are some of the specific applications that we've used deep learning on? Vehicle recognition is one. Again, whether it's you're looking at the challenges, India is a classic example, congestion, traffic congestion. Actually looking at vehicle recognition or looking at the types of vehicles moving, whether it be public transport, whether it be taxis, whether it be heavy goods vehicles, understanding that is actually going to help make better algorithms, employ deep learning into the way that goods and transport are moving around. People recognition. Again, in our challenge world around security and the movement of people and congestion and risk and so on, that happens, obviously, very tragic events recently in Mumbai. Understanding the potential for risk for individuals is something that, obviously, deep learning can help us with. And if we can help it with, then we can create the right responses. We can learn how authorities or how transport companies or how the whole control systems around these movement of people can be improved to protect lives. Handwriting recognition. I mean, this sounds like actually quite old technology. But as you can imagine, if you take something like the Chinese character set, it's one of the hardest things even for humans to recognize. But in the application of AI techniques, Fujitsu was able to basically get to 96.1% accuracy, which is better than all but the very best of humans in terms of character recognition. One other aspect of AI application is what's called anomaly detection. Now, any of the software engineers, I was going to say a failed software engineer, but that's not true. As a software engineer, I'm always very interested in algorithms. Graph theory is one of the most powerful techniques that you can use in developing software techniques. The combination of graph information, which basically talks about the complexity of any particular structure, and the application of AI means that you can start to detect anomalies. May that be anomalies in terms of the structure of molecules, of the configuration of basically viruses, etc. You start to be able to use that in intelligent ways that can defend things. And also in terms of cybersecurity, the movement and transition of people, the feeds from social networks, etc., all linked into a graph can start to understand the way that threats can evolve and can be dealt with. So there are many facets, many industry sectors, many problem spaces and domains that can yield itself to the application of AI, whether that be supply chain, fintech, social networks, biology, drug discovery, mobile and IoT, etc. They all yield themselves well to the capabilities that are emerging from AI and the application of AI in the digital age. Fujitsu in this area has invested very heavily to develop a platform. It's called Zinrai. Essentially, it's our technology for delivering many of these types of solutions to our clients, being widely adopted in Japan, and we're starting to roll it out on a global basis. Very key to knowledge processing, very key to making decision and mission-critical support systems. So there are many aspects that we're actually applying this now to with our customers. So something which is a bit more familiar, a bit more in our comfort zone collectively as a group of people, is cloud and hybrid IT. My colleague, Chandan, will be talking a bit more about hybrid IT as we go forward. But of course, any digital solution is going to rely on what's happening in the cloud. Yeah, the whole aspect of the way which cloud and hybrid IT will be approached in terms of use and exploitation is important to the way that we view the opportunities in the digital area. Platform scale, agility, the openness in terms of APIs, the ability to exploit the underlying infrastructure, balance and control. These are all things that are important. Platform scale means about your ability to deliver your services to your customers wherever they may be on the planet. To do that at pace, to do that as you see opportunity, you can deploy it, and you can deploy it on a global scale quickly. APIs, it's the importance of leveraging these services, whether they be fundamental to the way your business runs or the microservices that give fundamental data to all that. You see the immersion of this software-defined architecture happening at a tremendous pace everywhere. Balance and control is all about making sure that infrastructure adjusts to your business need as and when that business need occurs. One of the most difficult things in designing any architecture these days is dealing with the peaks or dealing with the troughs and how to do that in an economically viable way. That's some of the key things that we're trying to address in our hybrid infrastructure. Great example of this is we have a customer in Finland, which is called the S Group. One of their retail organizations is called ABC Petrol. Basically, they have over 1,600 outlets in Finland. And basically, it's actually built around a cooperative business model. And essentially, they're looking to ways to exploit that. So they approached us. Obviously, petrol and dispensing of fuel is something that most of us are experiencing. And they were asking, how can they address the needs of their customers better? Just a very simple business statement. What is it that they can do in order to address the needs of their customers better? So one of the things that we did was look at how we could integrate the retail proposition that they had to address the needs of their customers. So we developed an app. We developed a simple mobile app that essentially any client of ABC could use, and it detects where they are. So it detects if they're approaching an ABC station. It will immediately detect where they are in the car. It will detect the correct fuel pumps to go to. It will detect how to dispense the right grade for basically the car that they're in. And basically, it gave a very simple application, very, very simple application. And all the payment systems were done automatically. Essentially, the guy drove up, put in the petrol pump, put away the petrol pump, and walked away. Everything was done online through their mobile app, the fact that they're registered. We used our platform technology in cloud and hybrid IT, MetaArc, our K5 public cloud offering, basically to bring it all together using hybrid IT. Hybrid IT in terms of having a scalable cloud platform, integrating in the back end to all of their existing systems, using a private cloud infrastructure to deliver their own customer data and references, and something that you can basically see those types of things in some of our demonstrations. So on to the next dimension there. What are you most worried about in terms of digital? Typically, I think what people would see is security may be one of those fundamental things. Skills is a big issue. One of the reasons why we're here and interested in listening to these things is actually we know that digital is coming, but do we have the expertise? Do we have the people with the right adaptability and skills? Are we recruiting the right type of talent to help us address this? Fear of change is a perennial business challenge. Complexity, and just generally are people worried. So again, surveys on this. Security is the most fundamental aspect of why people fear digital. One of the things about data coming at you is where does it come at you? As you expose data through APIs, as you expose things, security obviously represents some aspect of the way that people consider whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to do. So Fujitsu understands that problem well, right? And one of the things that we're trying to do is look at security and all its aspects in digital. Fujitsu has a very long history in investing in security solutions. We work very much with governments and defense in this area. It's an area that Fujitsu has invested very heavily in. Security has never been more important. In an era which the pace of change on a global scale is happening so fast, we need to make sure that we address security in the right ways. Some scary statistics. 93% of organizations reported some aspect of a security breach last year. The average cost of a security breach to any Fortune 100 company is around 3.5 million on average. Those are some scary numbers. If you extend that to the economy of India, or you extend that to all the businesses that run in the EMEA region, or Japan, or Asia Pacific, it's a very scary number. One of the most scary statistics for me is that people who service this thing said, on average, it takes 9 months to detect a security breach. On average, 9 months. So your business could be vulnerable for a very long time before you ever detect that anything is wrong. So with those type of statistics going around, obviously we see security as being fundamental, and how are we actually trying to help organizations address that? Another facet in here is the whole thing around data protection. So the EU's come out with legislation, which is the General Data Protection Regulation, and companies will now be much more responsible for maintaining data in a secure way. And this legislation, for the EU at least, becomes effective in 2018. And all companies have been asked to address how are they actually going to meet the regulatory requirements of retaining data in a secure fashion For all facets of their data, whether it's employee data, whether it's customer data, they have to demonstrate their ability through audit that they are protected. So the legal obligations here are becoming very significant. Fujitsu is having to invest very significantly in making sure that we, Fujitsu as a company, are protected from this. The knowledge that we're building from that experience is helping us take our security solutions to customers and to work with them to adapt their systems, processes, and their infrastructure to be able to meet those regulations. I mean, whether that's true in India, whether that's true in the EU, it will obviously apply at some point in time in India, the Middle East, or Asia-Pac, in some different way. Obviously, regulation will be different. But it certainly creates a sense of urgency that these things are becoming more important for the way that businesses and companies, our customers, are going to deal with their future in business. One of the great examples that we have a customer in Scandinavia which is called Norsk Hydro, obviously Norwegian-based. And essentially Norsk Hydro, being a utility company, is one of the industry sectors that is most targeted by security threats. One of the things that we work with Norsk Hydro is around the whole strategy of how we protect them. And we used a combination of different technologies to help Norsk Hydro protect themselves. One of the fundamental ones was to use biometrics. The right and access for people to move around Norsk Hydro facilities or to access their IT systems based on Fujitsu's palm vein biometric solutions. Any of their critical infrastructure, any of their critical solutions could only be done through authentication, which was biometric. That helped them, through audit, be able to demonstrate to the Norwegian government how well protected they were in delivering services to the citizens of Norway. Incredibly important. So again, how do we combine the needs of the business with the digital systems and digital solutions to come up with building trust in them as a provider of critical infrastructure? So all about this connected service, how we are bringing things together, how we are focusing on bringing these different aspects, whether it be AI, whether it be hybrid cloud, whether it be artificial intelligence, how we bring those pillars together. We see it as being a set of connected services, things that interconnect together to bring new value to customers, to start to help them understand and address the way that they're dealing with their business challenges. So AI, IoT, the analytics, and basically cloud exploitation, all wrapped within a security framework, is how we see we are delivering our services integrated, connected together to help customers solve the problems. You saw the example in San Carlos around using security, cloud, and AI in terms of supporting patients and society. Also around the solution for INESA, around the cloud infrastructure visualization, analytics in terms of the way that smart factories are run, S-Group in terms of being able to realize the value or realize new value from a retail venture delivering services to their clients. It's all about transformational outcomes. That aspect where you can actually go and engage your clients, understand their business challenges, and start to change things. As you can see, the application of these different facets, these different pillars of digital, are all about making improved decision-making, increased visibility and transparency of what's affecting your business, gaining customer insight in terms of being able to understand and diagnose what's happening with their business, with their customers coming towards it, better protection from security threats, and better predictive power about the right way to respond to the challenges in their business. So, all of these facets make for always making better decisions, looking at the X-ray vision, etc. All of these facets come together in order to give us a capability to work and to co-create together. So digital co-creation is all about really going on that journey of understanding together. Fujitsu as a technology or innovator can only actually generate any value by getting an insight to a customer's business. We will never be the leader in financial services. Those people, those domain experts exist in banks We have to work with them, understand the problem, and articulate the ways in which technology and digital solutions can actually help their businesses. I'm very proud that one of the good examples we have for India is working with Syngenta. Taha, who's the CIO of Syngenta in India, will basically come up and talk a little bit more about this particular experience. But it's an ideal way in which we can show that impact in society can be gained by using digital co-creation together. Syngenta and Fujitsu didn't have much of a history in the past together. This was a great example of how we could innovate together and solve a business problem that neither of us could envisage the impact, but is a great example. And I'm very proud that Amit will join us on stage shortly. So, Fujitsu's vision of a human-centric intelligent society, getting people at the heart of digital transformation, putting technology and innovation in their hands that they can co-create, this is the vision for what we want to do. I'm really glad that you're all here, and I really hope that you can help us with that vision, and we can go on that journey together. Thank you very much. Of course, one thing that I do want to make sure is that these events cannot happen without the great support of our sponsors. Obviously, with Intel and Veritas, SUSE and ServiceNow, all working together are fundamentally key partners of Fujitsu on a global scale. And we're very proud to work with them together. And it's only through that collaboration that we can put on great events with this and bring to you some of the great solutions. So my sincere thanks for that. Please give a warm thanks to all of our partners. Thank you very much.